x squared minus 4x plus 13 equals 0. A is 1. B equals -4. C is 13. So what's opposite of B? 4 plus or minus -4 squared minus 4 times A is 1 times C is 13 all over 2 times 1 again. So -4 squared is positive 16. By the way, that number is always, this first number is always going to be positive no matter what this is, even though it's -4. It's, since it's squared, you will always have a positive number there. And -4 times 1 times 13 is negative, so you put minus 56 there, all over 2, 52. So then we have 4 plus or minus square root what? -36. So what kind of answer are we going to have then? Imaginary number, because we got a negative under the radical. All over 2. Not yet. And that's another place that mistakes will be made. It looks like you have 4, 36, and 2, that you could take a 2 out of all 3 of those numbers, but you don't have 36 here. You have the square root of 36. You can't simplify until you've got rid of that radical. If you can't get rid of the radical, then you can't divide. So we have 4 plus or minus. Now, I would take this radical over to the side and simplify it. So what do you have to do to that first? Put an I in front so that you have I square root 36. What's the square root of 36? So your answer would be 6I. And that's what you would put in right there for that radical. Still all over 2. So did we get rid of the radical? Is there any square root in there? No. So we have 4, 6I, and 2. And you can take a 2 out of those 3 numbers. So taking a 2 out of those 3 numbers, what would you have on the top there? 2 plus or minus 3I, and then on the bottom you would have a 1, and again, you don't have to write that. So you would leave your answer there. 2 plus or minus 3I. You can't simplify that anymore. You are done. Look over at page 279. Some of you have probably already kind of picked up on this. But that part that's under the radical in the quadratic formula, b squared minus 4ac, just that part alone will tell you what kind of answers you're going to get. It will tell you whether it's imaginary, whether it's a double root, or whether you're going to get 2 real distinct answers. And that table there on the bottom of 279 has that all laid out for you. I don't know if I will have you do this on a test or not, but I'll probably have you do it on some of the homework problems today, where all you have to do is find this. It's called the discriminant. All you have to do is find that and then tell me what your roots would be, what they would look like. So it says there in that top box there, if it is positive, so if the discriminant is positive, meaning greater than 0, if it's positive and it's a perfect square, what's it say that you should get there in the middle? 2 real rational. And what that means is you would get like 3 and maybe -1/2. Those are 2 real rational numbers. And just by seeing what you get for the discriminant, you can tell me what they will look like, whether it be two real rational, whether it be a double, and so on. If it's positive and not a perfect square, what's it say you should get? Two real irrational. And those are the ones you will get, and you will leave your answer 3 plus or minus square root 7. It means this radical here can't be simplified. We had that in our homework last time, and apparently some of us were confused on how to leave that or not. You simplify the radical as much as possible. There's nothing that goes into square root of 7. That would be your final answer whenever you run into that. And then the next one, what happens if it equals 0? B squared minus 4ac, the discriminant equals 0. You get one real rational, and what do we call that? If we just have one number, that's the double root. Now let's look up here to when that happened in our homework example. We got 0 under the radical, so our discriminant right here is 0, and what did we get for our answer? The double root. And then the last one, if it's negative, what are we going to get? Is less than 0 too complex? So that's where we'll have 2 plus or minus 3i like we did in that last example. Because what we have under the radical there is a negative number. Our discriminant is negative, so we will have, you just know you're going to have imaginary roots. Let's look over at the homework then. On page 281. Now, listen carefully to these instructions so you know what you're doing on your homework. On page 281, we are going to do 1 through 8 all. All you have to do on those 8 problems is solve using the formula, just like in all of our examples. 1 through 8, we'll do the same thing 8 times. Put it in the quadratic formula and simplify. That's it. We'll do 12 through 30 even. And $12 and $14. Find the discriminant first. And describe the roots. On 12 and 14, that's all you have to do. You don't have to find the roots. All I want you to do is describe them. So you're going to find the discriminant and use that table if you didn't write down what I put up there. If you didn't write this information down. Find the discriminant and tell me what kind of answers you should get. If you did, go ahead and solve it. You do not have to solve those two. And then 16 through 30. Again, on 16 through 24, you do not have to follow those directions. You don't have to find the discriminant and all that stuff. All you have to do on those problems is use the quadratic formula to find the roots on 16 through 24. 26 through 30 says use any method you want to. So if you're one of those students who can look at it and factor it in about 2 seconds and get your answers, that's fine. Use any method that you want to use. If you really like completing the square and you got that down pretty good and you want to use that method, go ahead. Last thing on page 280, they have a table outlining all the methods that we've covered. Again, this is the last method. We will not cover any more. And it shows each one of those methods in there and shows when they can be used. One thing I will note, it says at the top there for graphing, it says it can only be used sometimes. That is not true for you guys because you can use your calculator to find out exactly where it crosses. Sometimes it crosses at .279. Well, without a calculator, you wouldn't be able to find that. That's why that says sometimes, but that's not true for you guys. You can find it. You can use that anytime if you use your calculator. Questions over the assignment, what I want you to do before you start working on it. Yeah. So what's A? And that's what you put in there for A. No, that's a good question. With completing the square, we had to divide number 1, we had to divide by 8. You couldn't have any number in front of the x squared. With quadratic formula, you don't. You just plug in 8 for A. So on the bottom of that one, where it's over 2A, you're going to have 16. So whatever those numbers are. Good question. All right, go ahead and get started.